to make a brief presentation this time, Teacher Esther, if you're there, about the primary, and then I'll come to finalize the others. Want to appreciate our instructors. Thank you. Kindergarten. Let me hope members are learning. I am not seeing anything in the chat room yet. I believe
they have questions.
They have questions, surely. Now, Teacher Esther, after your presentation, we will maybe allow some questions, then we summarize now the whole program.
Okay. Okay, I'm sharing my screen now. Okay, good afternoon to you all. It's already evening. Can you view me well? Can you see my face very well? This is Teacher Esther from Makerere District, Esther Ssegwa. And today I'm going to show you how we go through the primary teacher's edition. The primary teacher's edition. This is what it looks like. Can you view my screen?
Yes, please, we can see it.
Yes, this is what the primary lesson class looks like. And when we look at
maybe Teacher Esther, you can do a slideshow down there so that it would be, yes.
Is that okay?
Not yet.
Just a moment. A moment. Can you see that now?
Okay, it is still near the point, but you can go on. You can just click that other button down in the corner with slideshow, because so that the screen.
I cannot see that on my screen. I had actually did the slideshow on the PowerPoint itself.
Okay, it is fine. You can go on.
Just a moment. Okay. This is what our primary lesson looks like. And when we look at the primary children, traditionally, we were told that it had to be for children of 2 to 4 grades. But recently, it's been recommended that if the church is very large, then probably the primary class can be divided into 2 grades, where we have the 1 and 2 grades, that is for 6 to 7 years. Then the primary 2 grades, primary 2, that is 3 and 4 grades, 8 to 9 years, so that we have 2. But it also depends on how well the ministry or the church is endowed. If it has few teachers, then probably it could only have 1 grade. But it has, if it has enough teachers, then it can have 2 grades. Now, when we look at the primary lesson, I'm doing an overview of what the primary lesson looks like. It is divided into four. Basically the whole lesson. When we look at the lesson, the primary lesson, let's say we have 13 lessons in a quarter. These lessons have been divided into different sections. For example, the first quarter, the first month, that is April, we're going to have 4 lessons, and all these lessons are under one theme. Basically, each month has a theme. This has been talked about by my former colleagues who just presented, but I'll also go through it briefly. So we have monthly themes. April will have service. All the lessons in April will be about service, and all the messages, all the lessons within April, all are going to point towards service. So at the end of the day, as a teacher, if you're teaching, just know, have this at the back of your mind, that it's about service. The lessons in April, in the month of April, are about service. And then I have this chart here with me. Probably you can see service. When we look at service, we're looking at how others can see Jesus in us, what the rest of the world has to see in us. So that is service. Then the next month, that is starting from April 30th, the whole of May, it's going to be about worship. All the lessons that we have therein are about worship. For example, the first lesson is about Sabbath. And when we look at the message here, it says, I worship God when I enjoy his weekly gift of Sabbath. So basically, all the lessons in May are going to be about worship. So we're teaching our children about the point of worship in their lives and how it is important. And when we look at briefly the next lesson in the second month of May, we look at Daniel prays anyway. And when we look at the message, it says, I worship God when I give him first place in my life. So basically, we're teaching children how to learn how to worship their God. And then lesson 9 through 13, that is for the month of June, talks about community. What is it about community that we look at? We are members of God's family. And when we're members of God's family, we tell others that we belong to God's family when we get baptized. So basically, all the lessons in June are about community, and all the messages that are there, that are these lessons, our children learn how to relate with other people. How do we relate with we as Christians, them as Christian children, how do they relate with other people in the community? Lesson 10, for example, a Good Samaritan. Then when we look at the message, it says, everyone is included in God's love. Then the prodigal son. When we look at the message, it says, people in God's family never stop caring for each other. So basically, when we look at all these lessons in a quarter, they are all thematic. Each month has a theme. So at the end of this theme, there is a message. These are some of the things that we would like our children to learn. So by the time you leave a class as a teacher, make sure the children have understood the message in this lesson. I'll move on to the characteristics of these children. For example, at my church, basically, when we look at the primary children, we look at ages 8 to 9. These are very active children. Physical characteristics, we're looking at the physical characteristics. They're active children. They love to run. They love to walk fast. Everything that they do, they use a lot of energy. They show good muscle coordination and balance. They really developed. They can stand, they can run, they can walk. So, and then they learn eye-hand coordination for fine skills. Eye-hand coordination. We look at the ability of the visual system to coordinate visual information. Basically, when a child, when you display something to them, they try to imagine. So we're looking at the visual, the eye-hand coordination. They try to think, whatever it is that you tell them, they try to visualize. They try to visualize. Now, when we look at the fine muscle skills, we look at the movement of the hands. The movement of the hands. They can write, they can draw, they can throw, they can sew. Basically, they can move, they can use all their muscles, body muscles. Next slide, next point says, willingly practice so as to learn new skills. They love to explore anything new. They love to explore. They are open to learning. For example, in class, when you're teaching something, you can come up with very many ideas. They do not have a problem with that. They love learning. They love something new. So here, a teacher is really required to be as creative as possible when dealing with these children. And then are somewhat far-sighted until 8 years of age. Now we're looking at primary class, let's say if it started from about 7 years. So are somewhat far-sighted. They haven't yet learned how to see things from afar, you know. They still need to be helped in the way they think. And are good singers. Primary lesson students love music. When I look at my choir at church, I have a lot of members from the primary class. So they love music so much. This is a time that we need to use them to make sure that we engage them in singing activities. Then they like to demonstrate newly acquired reading skills. They love to read. Many through age 9 need help finding and reading Bible texts. This is a time where we need to ensure that parents buy Bibles for their children so that they can practice their reading skills. Likewise, even at school, at least by this age, a child can read a book independently. So we need to encourage parents to ensure that at least a child has a Bible and a lesson. Then our literal thinkers need objects and pictures to help them understand. This is very important. They need visuals. They love to see, you know, they are practical so that they understand better. They relate whatever it is they see with what you're telling them. And then are learning to distinguish between fact and fancy, are curious and observant, asking a lot of questions. In a primary class, you really have to be open to allowing them ask questions because they'll ask questions until you answer all of them. So that means a teacher should come with an open mind and understand the characteristics of this child. Sorry, we're talking about the mental characteristics of a primary child. Then they also learn best from hands-on experience with concrete objects. There is something that I think it's a proverb, practice makes perfect. Children learn best, primary class children learn best when you engage them in practical experiences, or what we may call the object lessons. They love this very much. They love to see because they relate whatever it is that they're seeing, or even what they touch. And this basically also is communicated through the brain, and this helps them learn very well. And then are capable of prolonged interest and concentration. For a primary child, you can tell your story. You can tell them for as long as you want, but also make sure that it is very interesting. Instances where it is not interesting, I don't think that will really prolong their interest. They will have that prolonged interest. So it also depends on the teacher. But as for them, they are willing and ready to listen to whatever it is that you have to say. And then apply simple logical thought to practical situations. They try to think whatever it is that you're telling them and they put it into their lives. Is it really, you know, they try to relate. Can this really be happening? So they question because now their brain is developing. Then they memorize easily. When we give them memory verses, they recite them. What we normally do in my church is at the end of the 13th Sabbath or any children's Sabbath, we make sure all classes present lessons. They give us a brief of what they've been learning, all classes. But you find that a child will stand and tell you the title of the lesson, and they'll give you the memory verse, and they'll even give you a brief of what the lesson was about and what they learned and how they apply it in their lives. So they memorize easily. This class is very interesting because they're very curious to learn. They show an interest in the far away and long ago. This is very good because it gives you an approach as a teacher. As you're teaching, how can I approach these children? You can come and start the lesson at a glance. Experiencing the lesson far away or long ago. You know, they enjoy stories. And then they have limited understanding of time and historical sequence, are strongly committed to fairness and want those who break the rules to be punished. For a primary child, when you do something, they would like to see that justice has been served. If someone has beaten me and I've reported them, I would like to see the teacher taking action. That is them, full stop. And then they enjoy discussing experiences and new ideas. They enjoy discussing experiences and new ideas. That is self-explanatory, are fond of fun and stories. They enjoy fun and stories. And then they appreciate, now we're looking at the emotional bit of the primary child. They appreciate variety within a fairly stable routine. A complete change of program can upset younger primaries. They're static. They're not too static, but sometimes they're used to the way their program flows, and where you come and say, we're going to change and do something differently. A complete change program can upset younger primaries. Yes. So this can upset younger primaries where you change a routine that they've been used to. And learning to control negative emotions, expressing them in socially acceptable ways. In the beginner and kindergarten, we've learned that a child can easily, when others cry, they can also easily break down and cry. But for a primary child now, they're developing their emotions. They cannot easily cry, or alternatively, they could even run away and maybe cry from elsewhere where they cannot be easily seen. So they are learning to control negative emotions, expressing them in socially acceptable ways. So this also comes to the way we discipline them. Let's say they've done something wrong. How are you as a teacher going to approach discipline for this child?
Teacher Esther,
now they are learning.
As you continue, we are not seeing your screen slideshow. Maybe you continue. No, you can.
Just a moment. Let me share it again.
Yeah, share it again.
Can I share it in that format?
Yes, then you go down to your screen next in that corner where there is 73% of power. Around there is where you'll find slideshow. In that corner, you're about to reach there, just down.
Can you view it now?
And no, just down in the very right corner where you can see power on your screen, where there is 73% on your screen, down in the corner, where there is a volume, and is where you can do a slide show.
Okay.
Because we are still at the very first one of PowerPoint, but you can go on from where you are.
Just a moment.
Okay, meanwhile, we have about 30 minutes to end. You can summarize. Probably, okay. You can summarize, use the next 5 minutes.
Can you view my screen now?
We are seeing the first page.
Okay, just a moment. And you can see the first page. How about if I scroll through?
Yes, maybe you could do that. Yes.
Okay.
You can take us to the page where you are now.
Okay, I was looking at the emotional bit, the emotional characteristics of the primary child. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please, we do.
Okay. I was saying they're learning to control negative emotions, expressing them socially acceptable way. They need adults to model self-control. They fear death and divorce, are motivated by recognition, When you look at the social relational, they enjoy games. As we say, they're active, they're energetic, like adults, and seek relationships with them, want to please them, they want to make friends. They can be little legalists, wanting to know the rules and apply to other people. As for now, I'll leave the characteristics bit so that I can move on to the lesson because of the time factor, but there are some that I'll not leave out. When we look at the spiritual needs of these children, they need to know God, that God loves them and cares for them. They need to develop a personal relationship with Jesus. They are ready to access God through prayer. They experience forgiveness and mercy. They need to know the law of God. So it is, when we look at all these spiritual needs, it is a duty of the teacher to ensure that you make sure that children really, at the end of the day, learn and their spiritual lives are built. When you look at their spiritual needs, please try to ensure that you build their life spiritually. Then the developmental needs, those are obvious. They need a sense of responsibility. They need to develop a sense of accomplishment, to grow in self-esteem, etc., etc. Allow me to look at today the lesson that we're going to look at. The lesson that is lesson 1, beginning of next is coming, the new quarter. Our lesson had a title, Human Gods. Human Gods. And as we can see, when we look at the monthly theme, our monthly theme is about service, and there is a message. Others can see God in us, but there is one thing that you shouldn't forget when you come into the primary class. We have the memory verse. Leave a class without having learned the memory verse and where it came from, because this is where the gist comes from. And once a child learns a memory verse, this will also help us achieve our objectives. For example, when we look at this lesson, I would like to look at it in brief. It is about Paul and Barnabas. Let's look at the teacher's enrichment. When we look at the teacher's enrichment gives us a brief background of what the lesson is about. I'll read it briefly. It says, a city in Laconia, which was a section of the Roman province of Galatia. The city was a Roman colony founded about 6 BC. It was peopled by Roman veterans, and its inhabitants were Roman citizens. Paul and Barnabas preached there on their first missionary journey. Paul visited Lystra on his second missionary journey, and possibly on the third. Timothy was probably a native of Lystra. The Lystrians had a myth that Zeus had visited the area and believed that Paul and Hermes, the speaker, and Barnabas was Zeus. Zeus in Greek mythology, was the father of the gods. The name Jupiter literally means fallen from heaven. This gives you a background of what the lesson is going to talk about. Teacher's enrichment. This lesson is about how Paul and Barnabas go into Lystra and perform a miracle and heal a man. And these people think that these are human gods, and yet they were not human gods. Okay, so that is a lesson in brief. And when you look at the lesson and what they've given us, we've been given the materials that we're going to use in this lesson. We have pictures of idols, we have pictures of objects. I tried to download some and also included them in this presentation. We have Paul and Barnabas in Lystra. There is a picture. Children of this age enjoy to look at pictures. They love the pictures. So we have a picture of Paul and Barnabas in Lystra, basically helping a lame man. This was a miracle that they performed. And then when we look at the idols, because in the list of materials, we were given a list of idols in Bible times and then modern times. So I included some pictures here. You as a teacher can take an initiative of printing out these pictures, pictures of idols in the Bible times, and then in the modern times. We have televisions, we have phones, we have money. So at the back of a child's mind, a child should know that idols, portraits that they used to worship, but also that these days we have idols. For example, the TV, the phones, the tablets, the money, all those are idols that we shouldn't forget. Those materials at least should be in our classes so that a child can learn very well. And then when we look at some materials, we also when you look at the list, we had a picture of Jesus. We had, when you look at the readiness activities, we had an apple. We had 2 activities that we're supposed to look at. There was one, remember our lesson is about service. There was one where students are supposed to cut an apple in 2 pieces and share with each other. So as they share with each other, there are questions that a teacher is supposed to ask. What is it that you feel when you share? So students respond. How do you feel if you didn't get? How do you feel? You know, there are different prompts that help a child understand, so that by the time this debrief is over, a child now has a brief background of what really happened in the lesson. So through the debriefing, a teacher introduces the lesson. Then when you look at the materials, I have a picture of Jesus here because it was one of the pictures that are in the materials. Then we also have a picture of a heart. This heart can be used. A teacher can be as creative as possible. This heart can be used to write the memory verse. When you look at the memory verse, I'll take you through the memory verse. It came from Galatians. Carry each other's burdens and you fulfill the law of Christ, Galatians 6:12. So when we look at our materials here, print out. A child can write the memory verse in this heart. A memory verse can be written in this heart cutout. You can just, or you can even use plain paper as a teacher. Even if you don't have money, you can just get plain paper, cut it out for the child to use. So we had a picture of an apple here. All these are materials that we can use. Then at the back of our, when we look at the teacher's editions, where these teacher's editions end, we have activities. We have printable activities that we can use, and they are all listed. For example, I got this service contract card from the activities of the primary lesson. Now, this service contract card shows, it reads, to show God's love for others, I'll perform the following service for someone this week. Remember, this lesson was about Paul and Barnabas performing a miracle, and they healed a man who walked again. So now this is a vow, this is a card that you can print out. Alternatively, you can even just tell the children probably to draw with their rulers. And then they can also make this vow that to show God's love for others, I'll perform the following service for someone this week, so that at the end of the day, the child knows that it is my Christian duty to help others. So basically that is it for our primary lesson. Let's ensure that as we teach the children, a memory verse is supposed to be a must. The title of the lesson, the memory verse, the message, because the message brings out our theme. We serve God when we help others. So a child should know that at the end of the day, it is my Christian duty to serve others, And when I do that, I serve God. But at the end of the day, the children will learn the following. They will know that doing good deeds is one of the ways to serve God. They'll feel a desire to help others in need and help them to learn about God. Then they'll also respond by trying to help someone this week. Then the other option that we could use, you could also use role plays in your class. You could use role plays. Role plays are also very important. You could come up with costumes, and they can dress like those long ago Bible characters used to dress up. Paul and Barnabas in Lystra, and the way they help this man, you know. So through role plays, this can be very helpful for a child to learn. Remember, what they see, they visualize and can never forget. When we look at the room decorations, we can also try to customize. Here we're told that at the top of the bulletin board or a banner, there's a phrase, make me a servant. Make me a servant. Underneath, create a college using pictures of people helping others. You can create your environment. You can customize. That is if you read the lesson in the course of the week. Teachers, please do not read the lesson on Sabbath. Read this lesson in the course of the week. It will give you better planning so that you can know what is it exactly that I'm supposed to do for my class. you can have these pictures, and children can, at the beginning, before as people are arriving, other students are arriving in class, they can pin these pictures around so that they create that environment of people helping each other of service. So this will help children learn better. They're telling us, if available, put up other posters of helping around the world. So basically, that was our primary lesson. But teachers, let us not forget that if we want our children to learn, then it's all about our creativity. It's all about our creativity. It's not about money, but it's about us being creative. Even with the simplest materials, we can teach our children and they can understand. Thank you very much. That was my brief presentation. God bless you all, and hope it has been useful and that you'll apply it.
Okay. Thank you, Teacher Esther, for that presentation. Hey, this has been marathon for all of us, just because we are starting the new week and the new quarter, so we have to start implementing right away. We want to appreciate Teacher Esther Ssegwa from SDA Church Makerere for leading us through the primary lesson. Yes, it's about 30 or 26 minutes to end our program because we are supposed to end by 6. We want to give room to for about 5 minutes to the people here, our participants. If you have some question or an addition, we want to give room for 5 minutes, and then we can be able to conclude the remaining areas. You realize we may not have all the time to finish up everything, but we'll give you a glimpse so that you are set to begin. I'll ask the participants to press the reaction button or in your chat box, and we clap for Teacher Esther Ssegwa for leading us through the primary lesson. Yes, thank you, Waiswa Nehemiah, for the hand clap. Thank you, Mama Margaret. Thank you, Elder Sinapulia, for the appreciation. To our facilitator, thank you. May God bless you for your time. Okay, before we conclude, do we have any questions yet? Any supplement? We want to use the next 5 to 6 minutes, then we can conclude today's presentation. We will begin with Brother Julius Bakanamwike. I believe he's coming to us from Ginger, Source of the Nile Church. Brother Julius, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. You can go.
I'm really so grateful for having such a wonderful presentation. You know, I'd never picked interest in children, but today you have put me in class. So I'm requesting, I don't know if we can access the second quarter soft copy teacher's guide and the children so that we can access them. The lessons.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brother Julius. The good news is the children lessons are all provided by the Sabbath School Department. And so the Sabbath School Department, together with Children Ministries at Uganda Union, we have managed to outsource these lessons as early as possible. So I want to thank God, and the good news we are bringing to you is that all the lessons are available.
Excuse me, Mami Waiswa.
Yes, please.
Excuse me, Mami Waiswa.
Yes, please.
Can you put on your video? We are not seeing you, please.
My video is on.
It's off. Oh.
Okay,
fine.
Okay, thank you. I'm saying to our participants that the good news is we get the children lessons from the Sabbath school department. For long, it has been a hassle to get them on time, but with our Sabbath school director, that is Pastor Samuel Mombere at Uganda Union, he managed to get us these lessons in time. We sent these lessons a quarter ago, long ago, in all your Sabbath school directors in your fields, all children directors in your fields, at the conference, they have them. So the other good news is we are going to send you a soft copy. Personally, I have already finished compiling them, the teacher's guide and the student's guide. So I want to see that you use the teacher's guide. Don't go with the student's guide to the class. So tomorrow, make sure you receive a soft copy of the teacher's guide of all the 4 lessons, so that you start preparing for next Sabbath, which will be first or second. What will be next Sabbath? Okay, so that is the good news we have. We are trying to see if we can have the hardy copies. We thought, we hoped for some copies from Central Uganda Conference. I don't know. But again, we will see with Madam, with Teacher Esther Soboga, but we'll at least avail some few copies in hard copy. I believe a hard copy, I will not go beyond 10,000, so that you can also have a hard copy. So that is it. Let's take a question from Brother Josiah. Josiah, can you unmute yourself? Josiah, we are giving you Josiah. Okay, if Josiah is not there, because of time, let's have Sunday Bob. Sunday Bob, could you unmute yourself? Sunday Bob, remember we are having about 20 minutes to go. We have to finish up this. Sunday Bob, are you there? Hey, okay. All these putting up their hands are not there. Why Nehemiah? I can see your hand up.
Thank you, madam. Are you getting me?
Yes, please.
Hello.
You can go on.
Yes, are you getting me?
Yes, you can go on.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. And I would like to thank all the facilitators for the good work. But madam, I want to ask on the issue of the first presenter who presented about the total hour teaching. You can find that many of these practical lessons need a lot of time. What I'm asking, how can we manage all this time? You can find that maybe the shading is a lot of time and it's done the sub-school hours. How can we go to the time management? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Nehemiah. Yes, when you get your teacher's copy, the minutes for each of those activities is given here. Through the presentation, as we are presenting together with all our dear facilitators, the presentation seems to be long, but when you get into the actual one, what are the activities you're supposed to do according to the total learning hour? The activities are well stipulated in the teacher's guide. So they'll guide you. The teacher's guide will help you to apportion your time rightly on which activity, because remember you have one full good hour. So how are you utilizing that one full good hour is where we have the total learning hour, different activities and presentations to the children. The beauty with the teacher's guide is all of them are well outlined here. So it's a very good material for you. Okay, friends, because we are coming towards the end of our time, the other lesson which is remaining is PowerPoint. Remember, when we talk about children ministry, we are talking about children from 0 to 14 years. And so in children ministry lessons, we have the PowerPoint lesson. Now, the PowerPoint lesson is for the children of the ones we call the juniors.